What's up, you guys? This is Rob from Gay Guy Plays, and today on the Daily Grind, we're gonna be taking a look at what the fuck happened to the goddamn Sarpa. Now, as some of you may or may not know, I've actually reviewed the Sarpa in the past, and I actually went ahead and rewatched it, and basically what I said was, it's kind of weird, it's not bad, its supplementals are kind of like meh, it's not a great weapon, but it's not the worst out there. If you paired it up with stealth, it's really, really powerful. However, I don't know what's been going on, but I've been kind of like keeping an eye on my clan chat, and I've seen some people mention the Sarpa, and I was like, oh, let's play around with it. Then I realized when I looked at the build, I was like, this could definitely use some updating. So I went ahead and updated it, and I want to go ahead and show you exactly what's going on. So as you can see here, we've pulled out our good friend Billy, and as always, he's gonna sacrifice himself for us. Now I want to actually show you how this works without any stealth multipliers whatsoever, because as you can see right here, this thing is absolutely murdering a level. Okay, let me take that back. It's not murdering, but it's doing a surprisingly good job against level 150 corrupted bombard. Now this is definitely not what I thought it would do at this level. But as you can see right here, in 24 strikes, and you know, that's just a couple charge attacks, because this thing is a burst fire on its charge, and it literally just shredded through the health of a level 150. And let me go ahead and mix in, that's why I pulled out a good old Excalibur over here. A little bit of a blind, and ooh, I'm missing left, right, and center. Ignore this, we'll do a retake of that, but you can see right there, in 11 hits, that thing was dead, and I fucked up several of those hits. In fact, I was able to do it. Let's see if I can show you how it works without kind of like fucking shit up. Hold on. As you can see right there, he's pretty much dead in like 2 charge attacks. Like, that is absolute insanity. And I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, wow, who knew that? And this is something that I think that we all need to kind of keep in mind, is whenever like new mods come out, you know, whenever something different comes out, we definitely need to revisit some older weapons, because what tends to happen is we only look at the new weapons that it's good on, and we don't actually reflect on some of the older weapons that, you know, they may have potentially changed. And in this case, as some of you guys are probably guessing, it is a combination of Weeping Wounds and Condition Overload. And I just didn't think, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not like one of those things that you think about when it comes to condition weapons, because literally we only have 2 gun blades, right? We only have this, and then we have the Redeemer. And neither of their supplemental stats is really all that fantastic, right? So we probably didn't, like, you know, spend the time to think about it, but it is a slash-based weapon, and as you can see here, it can absolutely, I can't say massacre, because we know that there are weapons out there that, like, literally will breathe on a 150 bombard and will evaporate them in a matter of seconds. But I mean, like, you gotta admit, this is way better than you thought the Sarpa would perform, right? That is, like, legitimately way better than you would have ever freaking guessed that the Sarpa would have performed. So let's go ahead and show you the build. Now, as for the build, it's a pretty standard status build. We've got Condition Overload in there, we've got Weeping Wounds, Drifting Contact, Virulent Scourge, and, you know, basically the status elementals. Now, the one thing that I do kind of want to point out here is I did toss in Buzzkill. I was actually playing back and forth with a 3rd elemental mod, you know, tossing in some fire there for some control. But I'm going to be completely honest with you, regardless of which one you use, you're going to kind of come out with the same effect. The one thing that I did notice is that using the fire elemental made the amount of hits to kill vary a little bit more. I felt like it was always a little bit more consistent when you used the slash. Like, really, they're all within like 1 or 2 shots of each other. It's really not that major, but I decided to go with Buzzkill instead of it using the fire element, just because, you know, I figured it's kind of putting stress on the slash proc more, and it's not giving another element to kind of dilute the pool from all of the statuses that you get. And that's probably where we saw the variance for the amount of hits to kill. So that's what I use, and it feels like it works really, really well. And by the way, for all of you Shattering Impact fans, no, Shattering Impact did not help. It did not help. I tested that out too. Get that out of your head. Doesn't work on everything, okay? And for those of you guys who weren't around for the initial video, the Sarpa's big claim to fame was the fact that one charge attack could pretty much take down a nullifier bubble, and it was no big deal at all. It was nice just in case you were kind of like carrying around, let's say, an explosive secondary and like a bow for your primary, and you needed something that could kind of take down those bubbles real quick. Switching into your melee, and one charge attack is actually usually more than enough to take out the initial bubble. Of course, you know, you might have to kind of charge up a couple, because I am going up against level 150 nullifiers, so you have to understand the fact that they're not going to die as easily. But hey, I mean, if you wanted to, you could just do that, do a little bit of that, and then do a little bit of that, and they're pretty much dead in half. So let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. So one of the things that I really, really love about Warframe, and this is definitely a lesson that I've learned over time, is that one mod can legitimately change so much. Now, one of the reasons why I was kind of like thinking in my head that this worked so well with the Sarpa, and I'm specifically talking about condition overload here, because, you know, I'm not great at the talks when I plays, and it's really, really difficult sometimes to get my points across. But the big thing about this is status chance on shooting weapons has always been really, really good when we've got something with a fast fire rate. And the big reason for that is because, you know, status chance applies, you have multiple applications of status with the more shots fired. So basically what happens with the Sarpa is because of the fact that it's a burst fire, right? It fires its first 2 shots and then it fires another 2 shots. So what happens is the first 2 initial shots have their chance to apply status. Then after that, the second set of shots actually gets to take advantage of things like condition overload. Now, it is so insanely niche when it comes to condition overload, because condition overload is meant for melee weapons, but because of the fact that we have a gun blade, I was gonna call it a shooty blade, because of the fact that we have a gun blade, it's not necessarily a mechanic that you think applies in this case, right? So we've got a super fast fire rate weapon that fires multiple pellets at a time and gets a chance to follow up its shots with even more powerful shots because of the fact that we've got condition overload on it. And it's just not something that I think, you know how the devs had the whole thing with Hydroid and his puddle, and they're like, oh, corrosive barrage with the puddle. Oh, and then you get really powerful damage. I think that this kind of like follows suit with that. You're kind of like, oh yeah, when you combine those 2 things together, it becomes really, really powerful. And I think that's one of the reasons why DE tends to be cautious with adding things into the game, because of the fact that they tend to have like unintended consequences. Now, in this case, you know, it's something positive. Sometimes it could be negative, and you never really know. And that's why when a lot of us ask for certain things in game, or a lot of people ask for certain mechanics to be added, we're like, oh, we want to see this, we want to see that, and we're like, well, that's great in the instance that you're thinking of it now, but they also have to keep in mind all of the other places that it could be applied and it could be turned into an exploit. And that's why I think right now, when DE was talking about the Hydroid puddle thing, they were like, oh yeah, we'll keep it for now, as long as player feedback, and that's the big thing I was telling everybody. I was like, if you want this shit kept, if you like this shit, go to the forums and you let them know you like this shit, and you tell them to keep it, because there's gonna be people out there that are gonna be on the opposite end of the spectrum, and they're gonna be like, this shit's overpowered. Now, personally for me, I think the puddle it's kind of sort of fair, because it does require you to have an augment, and it does require you to use two different abilities, and it's an overtime thing. It's not something that it happens, you know, all that quickly. Like, it happens fairly quickly, but it's one of those things that doesn't happen, you know, it doesn't happen in like 1 second. It's like you have to put in the effort to do it. You gotta snatch the enemies in the puddle and whatnot. And that's kind of like the same thing for the Sarpa. You know, this weapon isn't necessarily the most powerful weapon on the block. However, in this specific case, when you use the right mix of things, you really get this super powerful synergy, or this really powerful synergy. I need to like watch the way that I speak about things, because there are so many things in game that are insanely powerful that when you say this is super powered, people are gonna like roll their eyes and be like, Rob, compared to a full status Tigris Prime, it's not that powerful. But you know what? It's really interesting. A full status Tigris Prime, you know, can't take advantage of stealth multipliers and can't use condition overload. I'm just saying that this is so niche that it's just really, really cool to kind of have the wombo combo of, you know, the multiple bullets being fired at once, you know, being able to take care of, take advantage of the additional shots and the follow-up shots for condition overload, and then of course combining that with the stealth multiplier and then the slash procs, the result from it, and the viral, it just all comes together to make this beautiful, wonderful synergy that I find to be extremely, extremely interesting. And I was actually looking into some other weapons too, and I was just like, yeah, but it doesn't have this cool synergy about it, especially with a weapon that is so niche like gunblades. And I'm crossing my fingers that in the future freaking DE mix more gunblades with better supplemental stats so that we can come up with more of these cool combinations. Let me know if you guys have played around with the Sarpa recently, if you guys have tried the condition overload stealth thing. Put that in your heads. If you haven't tried it, definitely give it a shot, because it's another way to vary up your gameplay. And in Warframe, it's all about, you know, varying things up. You have access to so many weapons, you have access to so many different Warframes that, you know, if you're not finding ways to have fun with it and you're not trying out something different and playing around with something different, then you kind of lose out on some of the magic of the game. Regardless, I hope that was helpful and I hope that was interesting. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll chat with you guys next time. Bye-bye!